Today, we are diving into a mystery that stretches back thousands of years, a story that literally connects ancient faith with modern-day science. It all centers around a structure you can see from space, and it forces us to ask a really big question. What happens when an ancient epic and a satellite image seem to be telling the same unbelievable story?
So let's start here. Picture this. A satellite, hundreds of miles up, is gliding silently over the deep blue waters between India and Sri Lanka. It snaps a photo, and what it reveals is just incredible. It's this faint dotted line, kind of like a ghost of a path connecting the two countries. The question is, what on earth are we actually looking at?
And that's where our explainer really begins, with a mystery that came to us from space. You see, it was our own modern technology that threw this ancient debate right back into the spotlight. This chain of islands and sandbanks, seen from orbit, became the heart of a huge question. Is this just a random fluke of nature, or is it a remnant of something much, much older? Well, that brings us to its two completely different identities. For scientists and geologists, this formation is known as Adam's Bridge. But for millions and millions of people, it is a far more sacred name, Ram Setu. That's the bridge said to have been built by Lord Rama's army. So right away you have two names, and they represent two totally different ways of seeing the world.
And this is exactly where we find ourselves today, right at the crossroads of these two worlds. On one side, we have the world of faith, bursting with stories of incredible courage and devotion. And on the other, you have the world of science, with its satellites, its deep-sea surveys, and its carbon dating. Let's dig into how each one sees this very same bridge.
And here, you can really see the massive difference in how they look at it. Science sees a natural process, a chain of limestone shoals and sandbanks in a very shallow sea, all shaped by ocean currents and geology over time. But faith sees the very footprint of God on earth, proof of a time when an army, driven by devotion, built a bridge across the ocean one stone at a time.
You know, in the Ramayana, the challenge was just immense. Can you imagine? Lord Rama and his army are standing on the coast, and they have to get across this vast, impossible ocean to reach Lanka. They've got no modern tech, nothing but their faith and the rocks around them. And then the order is given. Building a bridge across the sea, suddenly the impossible becomes the plan.
Okay, so let's hit pause on the epic for just a moment and look at the hard evidence. Geologists and all kinds of researchers have been studying this thing for years. So what clues have they actually found under the waves that keep this debate raging?
So this is where it gets a little weird. Researchers have found some really strange things that just keep the mystery alive. First, they found older, heavier boulders just sitting on top of younger, looser sand. Geologically, that's completely upside down. Second, this age mismatch happens over and over. Third, the whole thing is aligned in a strangely neat way, almost like a planned causeway. And finally, the kinds of rocks they're finding seem to have been brought from the nearby coasts because they don't match what's on the local seafloor.
Now, these clues don't exactly prove the ancient story, but they have led to a really fascinating theory that's kind of a middle ground. The idea that Ram Setu is a hybrid. The theory goes that nature created a foundation, a chain of sandbanks, and then at some point in the distant past, humans, or in the story, the Vanara Sena, came along and modified it, strengthened it to use it as a bridge.
Of course, for any of this to hold water, the timing has to make sense, right? If this structure really is connected to the Ramayana, then its geological age should line up, somehow, with when the epic's events are thought to have happened. So, do they?
And here's where it gets really compelling. Geological studies suggest that parts of this structure were forming around 7,000 to 10,000 years ago. Now get this, at the same time, researchers using astronomical data from the epic itself, like the position of the planets, place the events of the Ramayana right around 7,000 to 9,000 years ago. That overlap? Well, for believers, it's a powerful connection. For scientists, it's a fascinating coincidence. But either way, it's a spark that keeps this entire story alive.
Now, before we go any further, we absolutely have to clear up a huge piece of misinformation. You've probably seen a headline somewhere claiming the bridge is 1.75 million years old. This number gets thrown around a lot, but it's usually taken way out of context, mixing up the age of the structure we see today with much, much older geological layers in the region.
The scientific consensus is that the structure of Ram Setu as we see it today was formed in the last several thousand years, which, as we just saw, actually lines up much, much better with the timeline of the epic. The real mystery here is plenty fascinating on its own. It doesn't need any exaggerated numbers.
So, after all of this, we're left with two incredibly powerful stories.
One is written in stone and sand, and it's studied by science. The other is written in scripture and in the hearts of millions, and it's cherished by faith. So how do we possibly bring them together?
Well, maybe the answer is in understanding what our technology can and cannot measure. A satellite can see rocks, it can see sand and water, it can map out a chain of shoals in a shallow sea, no problem. But what it can't see is courage. It can't measure devotion, and it sure can't detect the kind of unshakable belief that can turn an impossible ocean into a path forward.
And that really brings the final question back to you. When you look at that satellite image, at that pale, ghostly line connecting two lands, what story does it tell you? Do you just see a geological wonder shaped by nothing more than time and tide? Or do you see the shadow of a bridge built on faith, a testament to an epic that still echoes in our world today? The answer isn't up in space or down under the sea. It's in what you choose to see.